another episode of the Mindful Moneymakers, where we break down all the tips, tricks, and mindset shifts you need to make if you want to live by design instead of by default. Today, we have another long conversation, long in the making. We've been following each other for years on social media. I'm super excited to be bringing this light, this leader, this expression of joy and peace and prosperity to you today. Today's guest is someone who helps leaders and professionals navigate one of the toughest balancing acts of our time, which is staying human in a world increasingly run by technology. She brings clarity, strategy, and soul to her work as a leadership mentor and AI strategy consultant, guiding clients through change while keeping them grounded and purpose driven. She's also the host of the podcast All Things Human, where she explores the intersection of psychology, consciousness, and artificial intelligence. With a background in economics, corporate systems, and nearly 2 decades of transformational coaching, she's built a reputation for combining rigor with real empathy. Today, we're speaking with Adele Wang. Yes, indeed. Hey,
Well,
Adele.
hey, great to be here. Wow. Yeah.
So good to speak with you. So good to see you and share this time and share this space with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
That's good. That's good to hear. So I was able to give you kind of a brief introduction, but I feel
Mhm.
like I've only scratched the surface. From watching your videos on TikTok, I know that there's so many layers to you. So I want to start off by giving you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself a little bit deeper. Tell us how you got started. Where are you now and where are we headed?
Yeah, well, the short version is I've been in the corporate world. I was successful there as an analyst. And somewhere along the line, I became very interested in my inner mess. I had no idea, no plans to coach anybody else. I was a hot mess emotionally with relationships. So I really dove into why was I having such a hard time with basic relationships.
Mhm.
Dating was hard. I was terrified of my boss. I felt lonely in a crowd. So I was somebody who was outwardly very sparkly, looked social, but inside felt just very lonely. And so that sent me on a lot of inner exploration. And so I really do understand how a lot of people are feeling these days, especially when you are surrounded by people and feeling lonely, and you might be very smart, high performer, and it's just not clicking. um, I typically work with a lot of leaders, a lot of people who've done a lot of therapy, which is
Mhm.
great. I like to tell people there's more possible, and Talmadge, I know you know as well as I do, therapy is great, and there's so much more possible for you. So different things work for different people. And I've found that for the people that I work with now, because I've been coaching people now for, God, 15, 20 years, 15 years,
Mhm.
um, we sort of have to get out of our head. We got to go a little bit, go out of our heads literally to find ourselves again. And so now with AI coming, oh my gosh, there's so many moving parts now in the human experience and what it means to be human. So, what I love about our conversation is I've always felt that I'm not really teaching anybody anything, but hopefully people can feel something,
Mhm.
because we're in a world that just wants to feel more and we're lost in the noise, in the sauce. So, everything that comes out of my mouth, I learned the hard way. I was a slow learner. I didn't make mistakes just once or twice, sometimes 10 times, 20 times,
Yeah.
but I learned the hard way. And so this is what I share with the world now.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm spending a lot of time with business people who are deeply sensitive,
Mhm.
um, a lot of people who are worrying what's happening to consciousness because of AI. So we're in this interesting soup. Wouldn't you agree
I
right now?
would.
And
It's
the world is spinning, our economy's doing funky things, the news is spinning. Here we are just trying to be happy humans.
It's so crazy. We're gonna try and make some sense of it, and I think a good place to start, because what you said is something that I resonate with, and I speak with a lot of coaches, and usually our first client is ourselves, right? So that lived experience, right? Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah.
we realize that something just isn't working. Something has got to give. Something has got to change. Could you tell us a little bit about like what that moment was for you when
Yeah.
it's like the light bulb
Yeah.
goes off and it's like
Yeah.
this ain't it?
Well, yeah, I went around the world from extremely living in my head of I need to fix myself. If I'm not happy, I need to fix. So that everything was reading books and studying psychology, and I knew all the words, and I knew about attachment theory and all this stuff, but I didn't feel any better. I mean, if there was one thing I could just sort of let everyone know, just learning stuff about psychology does not usually make anyone feel any better. It just makes you understand your mess better, which is I mean, it's useful. But I've never seen anyone read psychology books and feel better.
Mm,
They just understand themselves better. They can articulate. All I care about is that people feel better. And Talmadge, I think you agree. All the psychological information in the world is not very useful if you don't feel better.
mhm,
And maybe the key to feeling better now isn't more psychological information at all. Maybe it's relational, maybe it's energetic, maybe it's in the body, maybe it's art, maybe it's like there's all this other stuff that will guarantee you feeling a little bit better than more analysis.
mhm,
So my light bulb was I went from very left brain and I need to fix myself. So I read a lot of books and I'm not feeling any better. And I tried therapy, didn't really feel any better, but I was really good at talking about my problems.
mhm,
Didn't feel any better. And then someone said, "Oh, well, you need to discover spirituality." I said, "Okay, I can do that." But what I thought was spirituality turned out to be more metaphysics.
mhm,
So I learned everything about the tarot and reading energy and past lives, like all that stuff. I thought that was spirituality. That was a big miss on my part. That those are just practices. So it's like going from Catholicism to Buddhist. It's just another way of thinking about things. So I tried that. I didn't feel any better. And I worked with a spiritual teacher, and through a series of very jarring incidents, I realized I was heading down a path that wasn't going anywhere.
mhm,
I could tell you about chakras, sound pretty smart. I could tell you, but I didn't feel any more connected.
mm,
And so after a really rough conversation with him one day in front of a room full of people, I finally said, I'm done.
mm,
I have tried psychology. I've read all the PhD stuff. I've tried spirituality. I've meditated, all this stuff. And I still feel like crap. And if I can't find a better way than this, I'm out of here. I don't see any point. And it's funny how when you really ask from deep inside, I'm sure you've had moments like this of total surrender that the solution doesn't have to come in a certain way.
mhm,
That's when magic happens because you've just given. There's a difference between surrender and giving up. So I was in surrender, and through a series of events, I met some pretty amazing people. They're not famous. They don't have 10 billion followers on Instagram telling you how to live your life, but they are amongst the most grounded wisdom people I know.
mhm,
And I remember thinking, that's what I want. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you call it. If it's not spiritual, what we thought was spirituality, it really is. But I didn't know the difference between metaphysics and spirituality.
mhm,
Spirituality, there's no words for it. You just feel it. And I was deeply disconnected. So, anyway, long story short, I underwent a deep period of study about myself.
mm,
And I had to throw out everything I ever learned about attachment theory, everything I learned about the tarot, everything I learned. Like that is noise.
mhm,
When you don't know who you are, that is just making it worse, has been
mhm,
my experience. And so I work with a lot of clients now that are frustrated. They're reading I Ching every day. They're doing all this crystal readings, past life. They don't feel any better. I'm like, if that's not working, let's try something else.
mhm,
Right? You can always go back to that if it's useful. But my number one goal is it working? And if it's not, let's try something else.
mm,
There are other ways. So, anyway, long story. That's why I really understand this time we're in with everyone trying to figure themselves out. There's smoke coming out of their ears. They're reading books and self help.
yeah,
To me, self help has become shelf help. Like
right,
you buy a book and it sits on the shelf. And I'm like, did it help?
mhm, no,
What I think most people need now is connection.
oof,
It's something you can't do by yourself. I know everyone out there's going to try.
yeah,
Let me go, just figure it out. And I'm like, Stop! That is the source of problems.
Right.
Because earlier on, I didn't know how to connect. So that in a nutshell is what I'm passionate about now. So I'm not the coach for you if you want someone to tell you what to do,
Right.
or 5 steps to the who's he what's it's, or your third chakra is spinning the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've studied all the energy medicine. I can read the aura. But it doesn't last.
Right.
Like if I have to clear someone's aura over and over, it just creates a dependency.
Mhm.
I'd rather people figure out their own energy field.
I really appreciate a lot of the things that you're saying because these are the conversations, these are the things that people aren't saying. And a lot of people who haven't had these experiences go
Yeah,
down that path, end up wasting a bunch of time, a bunch of money. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, you get the experience and you get to grow through it and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
hopefully,
everything's a learning.
right,
Everything's a learning. Nothing is ever lost. But I would rather learning be less painful.
right.
You can learn from joy, but most of us learn from the school of hard knocks.
Hmm.
And nothing is wasted. But if you can tune in on a few things that might help you a little bit, make
Hmm.
it less painful,
Right.
save you some time.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of a transitional period that I went through not too long ago. When my first daughter was born, she's almost 3 now, and I was floating off of the surf of the earth into metaphysics and Joe
Mhm.
Dispenza and
Oh,
all of this
yeah.
stuff and astrology and all of
Oh,
this,
yeah.
and it
It's,
it did
it's
it did
interesting.
yeah, it was interesting. It was different. It was new. I said, hey, the way that I was going, the way that I saw other people going wasn't working. That wasn't the path. So I needed to find something else. And, chakras and
Oh, yeah.
the crystals were there with open arms. Come on in. And I did it.
Absolutely.
And I did it. And I changed my identity for a while. But what shifted was when I had my daughter, I knew I needed something that I can pass down, something that I can rely on, something that is repeatable and not as subjective as my experience with metaphysics was. So as
Mhm.
a coach, I had to grow and I had to like figure out who I was going to be as a coach because integrity is at the top of, my priorities. What you said over and over again, did it work?
Did it
Right?
work?
Can it be applied to multiple people, and can you expect similar or the same results? And the answer for a lot of that stuff, where we call it spirituality, and you also touched on this, we call it spirituality, but it's usually just an emotional, psychological experience that we're having that we're just
Mhm.
misattributing to
Yeah.
spirituality. I really
And,
appreciate
and
that.
there's an argument to be made that everything is spiritual, which is true.
Hmm.
And different things work for different people at certain times. So when I first got into metaphysics, I thought, I've arrived. I'm closer to God than anybody else. I can
Right.
read your
Oof.
chakras, which at the time gave me some sense of, I don't want to say importance, but I was
Hmm.
so lost. It was something
Hmm.
because it was in a book and I was around people that felt the same way.
Right.
And at some point, I outgrew it because I knew that wasn't where I was meant to stay. So I think a lot of people go through this in religious work. You know, they left home a Protestant, came home, as a Catholic. And there's nothing wrong with it. But all these experiences, we're finding ourselves,
Hmm.
and we outgrow. We're meant to keep growing. So I think that's why trying to proclaim one thing for everybody all the time does everyone even more disservice, because then you're like, well, it didn't work for me, so is there something wrong with me? I need to try harder. That's what happened to me.
Right.
So I'm open to anything that works. And after working with hundreds, if not thousands of people, I'm aware that different things work for different people,
Hmm.
and there's no sense in trying to force a system. Who I was at 20 is very different than who I am today. So which is better? Well, it's just where people are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm hearing is that, and what you said is, hey, I'm not the coach that's gonna have 5 steps to whatchamacallits and whoosy doozits. I really appreciate that too, because a lot of people are under the impression that you go to a coach to get an answer. I'm going to fix your problem.
Yeah.
And being the coach that says, hey, I don't have the answers, you do, I think allows people to have a connection to, a crystal
Mhm.
or a
Yep.
religious belief, and still get a tremendous benefit from
Mhm.
hiring you as a coach, because you're not going to be the coach that says no, you're wrong, but you
Correct.
also have an experience that, hey, it's not for me, but that doesn't mean that it's not for you,
Yeah.
and we can
Yeah.
still work with it and
There
take the
there's so
positives.
and I think that's so important. There are multiple paths to healing. We're in a multidimensional world, and I think it's important to respect whatever path. And I have found that even people who claim to be atheist, if you really sit with what they're saying, they do have a connection to something. They just don't use the same words.
Mhm.
So sometimes I have found it easier when people are talking about the big questions of the day, because that's what people come to me for. Existential, what is God, all that stuff. And rather than give them a verbal, I might say, that feeling of when you look up at the stars at night,
Mhm.
that feeling, or the feeling of joy when you see your little girl's face in the morning.
Mhm.
Like, how do we describe that? That's not a theory, that's not a religion, it's an experience.
Mhm.
Or things of art. Maybe you see something that just makes you cry. Go there. I don't
Mhm.
care what you call it, but you become more alive in those moments. And being alive does not always mean that you're happy, 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 but you are more alive. You're more in the moment instead of watching things go by. And that's why I get a little nervous with social media, because you're just sort of consuming.
Mhm.
You're not engaged. So people have gotten a little passive with their lives,
Mhm.
scrolling for hours on social media. You don't have a chance to be in the moment. And anyway, I could go on and on about that. But I do think connecting to something bigger than you, especially if you're by yourself, is really important. That's what helped me a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and I've had several teachers, not just one.
Mhm.
So there is a length of time that I'm meant to work with someone. And sometimes it's like, okay, I've served you. Now you're ready for something else.
Right.
I think that's also good too, that we're all in a cycle instead of just one answer for everyone all the time.
Mhm.
So my work, I do focus a lot on experience in the body.
Mhm.
Our culture, people are very disconnected from their sexuality.
Mhm.
That's a big deal. The sensuality. You can't feel anything in the moment if your body is not here.
Right.
So that's part of it. And hooking people's sensuality and sexuality up to God,
Mhm.
that is powerful because our culture has split.
Right.
So that's some of the stuff I talk about.
Yes,
So
indeed. There's so many different ways that I want to go and touch in, but I definitely want to kind of pick your brain on how we navigate the world as the country is on fire. We're more divided than we've ever been, and
yeah.
connection seems to be the goal. And what I'm hearing, and I want to just throw this in the mix too, is that our objective rather, should probably first be to slow down in order to find space for an opportunity. Is that right? And how are we going to? What are we?
Yeah.
72 questions. Go.
Yeah. Tell me, you've got your thumb on the pulse. These conversations are desperately needed. That people have become so overwhelmed, scared, and disgusted by their neighbor or whatever that they're at home trying to like just make it through another day alone. And over time, what I've noticed is that people's um, social muscles are atrophying,
Mhm.
meaning we had the COVID, right? And then so people got shut away for what, 2 years or whatever, and they got used to this Zoom stuff.
Mhm.
The kids lost time in schools. They weren't engaging like normal humans.
Mhm.
And then COVID ended and we sort of started to come back, but it never quite came back from my perspective, normal. It was better.
Mhm.
And then everything else blew up, the election and all this other stuff, and everything splintered again.
Mhm.
So what I'm seeing now is that people have lost a lot of their social mojo. Their ability to be around people
Mhm.
is much weaker than it used to be. That means they can't tolerate even the slightest, I don't want to say disagreement. You think this, I think that, immediately it's just, you cut them off.
Mhm.
We don't agree, you're dead to me. There's this idea that I need to protect myself, which is true.
Mhm.
So I always like to go right to the how much can you comfortably tolerate? Not too much. Too
Mhm.
much, it'll shut your nervous system down and make you feel like crap. That's not useful.
Mhm.
But we need to keep moving to the edge because the edge is where the engagement happens.
Mhm.
And you might get a little pissed off, but not too much. There has to be this sweet spot because that's where discourse can happen in
Mhm.
a practical way. What's happening at the national level totally dysfunctional.
Mhm.
It's like if you're not, if you're not with me, you're against me. Well, that's not going to work.
Mhm.
We might as well splinter off now. Are you seeing anything get any better this way?
Mhm.
If everyone is your enemy,
Mhm.
and then in my work, I get a lot of people that are coming out of new age thinking. So I
Mhm.
have to sort of wake them up because there's this idea that what you focus on, like if we talk negative,
Right.
we're getting more negativity. Well, if your neighbor's house is burning down, are you going to say, well, that's because they were negative? I'm one of the good people. My house is fine.
Mm.
Right? There's this thing like we create a reality that's got a lot of people very passive, I think.
Mhm.
And it's people are a little bit warped in terms of being able to connect.
Mhm.
So I'm encouraging if you're out there, be curious about people.
Mm.
Everyone thinks they're the good guy. No
Mhm.
matter where they are on the political spectrum, everyone sees themselves as a good guy. I just want things to be better. It's
Right.
just that the way they're doing it has a very us and them.
Right.
And then there's the other extreme that we're all one. We
Mhm.
should, there's this feeling that let's not fight.
Right.
And that's not healthy either because we do have differences in opinion.
Right.
It's just we lack the skills to have a conversation without people just losing their stuff.
Yes, indeed. And I love that because yeah, as somebody who has come from we're all one, we're all this is all one thing, one consciousness, and whatever you focus on, you're creating. And that's so egotistical. It's so and the crazy part is we do that in the name of killing your ego
Yeah.
and trying to
And,
identify
yeah.
as
And
the thing.
and here's the thing, as a spiritual teacher, I always say that everything can be true and false at the same time.
Hmm.
So on some level, right, maybe at 30,000 feet spirituality,
Right.
everyone on the planet is one. That's true.
Hmm.
But the question becomes, where are you? Is that useful for solving problems when people don't have enough food
Right.
or people are shooting each other up in the street, whatever?
Hmm.
If you become this cloistered person locked away, like I'm for the monks coming out of the monastery, we need you here opening your mouth and talking to your neighbor.
Right.
That would be more productive than you closing away because you can't handle any stress. We
Right.
got a lot of fragile people, and I totally understand that. We have a traumatic background in this country, all kinds of trauma. You don't have to go too far back to get a
Yeah.
lot of trauma,
To
and
this
it's still
day.
living in people's bodies. And
Right.
then we have some people saying, well, that was then. It's negative. Let's move on. I'm like, oh my goodness. You
Yeah.
don't understand the first thing about trauma recovery. It's very condescending, it's insulting. Like not everyone had the same background. And are you able to tolerate this?
Hmm.
And right now, people feel very defensive about everything.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of
And
think defensive is our middle name, you know,
yes, indeed.
the defensive states of America.
Right. And now more than ever, people are saying some inflammatory things, and I think they're doing it on purpose. Recently, I've had people, try to dox me and post my address and
Oh my.
threaten me. Yeah, to come to my house, or how about I just pay you a visit? And it's funny because you're talking about people traveling to my house. They don't even have gas money, so
Hmm.
it's hard to take them seriously. But it's still a unique time in that people think that that's okay, and people think that is they're driven, they have a desire to do
Hmm.
that. I think that I understand it, um but the challenge is understanding it and also moving forward, especially as a leader, as a coach, as somebody who is supposed to
Yeah.
represent, like for me, I have the love movement. It's all about loving yourself so that you may love the world. But right now, the world seems very hostile, and it becomes increasingly hard to love a hostile environment and a hostile people that don't seem to care about understanding another side, right? They don't even care to understand objective facts, right? So how do we
Yeah,
how do
and
we navigate that?
I think the problem is people are under such duress, so like all this bad behavior we see is a symptom. I don't think it's people's natural way of being,
Mhm,
but I'm worried about my job. My kids don't talk to me. I feel like a schmuck, and and I'm under. So when someone doesn't agree with something I say, it feels like an attack. It feels like all out war. I better destroy them before they take over. Like there's that survival instinct. So the only thing that I have found, not that I know everything, but is if that person desperately needs a little bit more connection of someone is saying, you're all right.
mhm,
It's okay to think all these crazy things.
mhm,
Um, and if you're this disconnected, what can we do to help you feel a little bit better? Chasing people down on the internet is you could, but maybe we could get you connected with your neighbors again. Or, how are you with your boss? Is it gross? Do you
mhm,
hate your job? Maybe, keeping it as practical as possible, because all this bad behavior we see with Karens blowing up on social media, like everyone's laughing at them because
mhm,
it's pretty outrageous. I mean, I've seen them. I'm like, oh my God, these
mhm,
are people that are at their wits' end
mhm,
and they just can't tolerate, they lose it. And that's too bad. I'm saying that you need to be held accountable. That's not okay to do that. But what can we do to make your life a little bit better and more tolerable
mhm.
so you don't snap at the person who stole your parking place?
Right, right, right. So tell
But
me,
they need
tell
to be
me.
held accountable. There's no excuse for that, but
Mhm.
it's a symptom of how sick people are feeling.
Right. And I love that. I value that. I think that you've made me better for having listened to what you said, because it kind of softens my heart up. And, to find the humanity in people that are having a tough time and believing that people are doing the best that they can with what they have, I think is very helpful. Like you said, it doesn't excuse the behavior,
Yeah.
but it is a step in the right direction. Tell me a little bit about what it would be like to work with you in a
Yeah.
time like this and what people can expect from connecting with you.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple different things going on. I have private work. Some
Mhm,
people, it needs to be very confidential, and I'm listening deeply into their journey because people are complex. So if you're looking for a coach out there, find somebody who can catch all of the layers of you, because people have histories.
mhm,
Like I know in coaching, sometimes there's this idea you just focus on the future. I've not found that to be very useful.
mhm,
People bring with them legacy of where they come from, what happened. A lot of family loyalties have to be respected. And unfortunately, that loyalty sometimes makes people do wonky things.
right,
Okay, let's dance with that. If you don't have a
mhm,
space for that, everything else is just a waste of time.
mhm,
So, so I've got private work. Sometimes these are business leaders. Sometimes these are, you know, and then I have work for people that are in the leadership space dealing with AI.
mhm,
And is there a way to use AIs in a useful way for your own leadership development? Yes. And sometimes people need, oh, I need AI in my business. So, strategic stuff,
mhm,
the tools and all that stuff. But I'm here to say the heavy lifting ahead for humanity. And that's why I'm so glad you're around, Talmadge, is we've got to be even more human than ever.
mhm,
It's becoming a point on social media where you can't believe anything you see or hear because it's
mhm,
all AI generated.
mhm,
People want it, like this conversation right now. We are not bots,
mhm.
right? Like, but someday you're going to have podcasts of bots talking to each other.
Right,
Like, oh my God, what's the point of that?
right. It's
So
it's
yeah.
here. I've actually listened to a couple of AI debates. They have one bot debating another one on, ideas like feminism and
Yeah,
abortion and things like that.
it's
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 here. It's here.
interesting, but it may not reach people.
Right.
It's interesting.
Mhm,
So I think as things become more AIified, there's going to be more demand for human contact, like what
mhm,
you're doing, for human coaching, for real life concerts.
mhm,
Get out of the house, go watch a symphony or a band, be
mhm,
around living creatures again.
Yeah.
I think people are alone way too much.
Mhm.
And being around people is hard. You got to deal with their edges and your edges and me. But
Yeah.
that's healthy.
Mhm.
We are becoming way too weak because we're trying to you know, have it easy. Comfort is not your best friend in this situation.
Mhm.
Comfort's not your friend. Growth is what makes people feel happier.
Mhm.
Comfortably numb can settle into depression,
Mhm.
especially if you're only meditating, which I love meditation, but you don't take action towards something that you want. The energy level just drops and gets even more still. And I'm like, you don't need more emptying. You need more fullness. How about a few more conversations and color? And we got to fill that space. But people are doing the opposite. They're emptying
Mhm.
and everything settles. I see this too much.
Mm.
So I'm trying to find the fire in people's bellies of the courage to be a little rascally, try something. And that spark comes back. And I'm sure you as a parent, you see that every day with your kids. Oh my God,
So
there's
much.
nothing more human than that.
Mhm. Yep, bare bones, and they're a mirror to me too, to show how human I am. The things that
Yeah.
I thought I had dealt with, and my temperament, and all of the meditating that I've done.
Oh
I
yeah.
like I know better, and
Yeah.
but when it comes to the things that you feel like you've already learned, and you're still facing those challenges because now you're supporting somebody else through them, you still have
Yes.
the same resistance to the challenges, even though you thought you defeated them. It's something else.
And, and you're up for it. And this is something AI can never replace. AI
Never.
can't be a parent.
Right.
And I think these relationships are what give life texture and not convenience and comfy, but there's an edge there, and that's how we were meant to live.
Mhm. Right. Tell us a little bit about what's on the other side of working with you.
Yeah. Well, my job, I spend a lot of time sort of provoking people a little bit with interesting questions,
Yeah.
like because everyone's got blind spots.
Mhm.
So I spend a lot of time just curious about people's assumptions because there's that square of the things the things you don't know, the things that you don't know, and this last box is the one that I think is the most potent. Most coaching right now is in the box, the things you don't know, or the things you don't know that you don't know, which that's valid. But I have found there is so much power in the fourth box is the things you think you know that aren't true.
Mm.
Like all these assumptions you have, whether about certain kinds of people or how God works or the economy, if you can open that up, that is where people go, oh my gosh, like
Mm.
I thought XYZ, and now I'm starting to see a totally different world. I'm like, yeah. So I'm always like, question everything. Faith is a constant evolving thing. What you think you used to assume about people, or what you used to assume about your parents, what you assumed about your neighbor. I can't tell you how many people who I live in this HOA with a bunch of people that kind of wave at each other, but they don't know each other. So we had a meeting the other day and people started to get to know each other for the first time. They're like, oh, I always thought you were blah, blah, blah. This is what happens when more engagement. It breaks down those assumptions. And then you can move on to the next level of problems. Life is full of problems, but I'd rather you focus on the ones that are worth it instead of the same old.
Mhm.
So I tell people, don't hire me if you want things to be easy.
Mhm.
My job is to push you to the next level of problems. And it'll probably be something more of what you want
Mhm.
instead of a bunch of crap you don't like. You're just trying to survive.
Mhm.
And then you get more of what you want. And then you have the next level of problems. But then life is at least moving in the direction you want instead of just whatever.
Right.
Folks, if you're out there living a whatever life, the first thing is to just be curious. What do you want? Half of you have stopped wanting because
Mm.
someone told you a long time ago, well, I should be grateful. Well, of course you're grateful. And you can want more. Is it a better relationship, a better job, whatever? Because if you settle, you get this lukewarm thing of meh.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are living in meh, and
Mhm.
there's not enough fire there.
Right. Oof, I love that. And I know that somebody listening right now is completely inspired by what you said. There's somebody that is like, "Hey, this isn't working, and it's probably because of an assumption that I've made that needs to be
Or
shifted."
or
They
it
need
it worked
support.
for a while,
Mhm,
like, you mastered it,
mhm.
but that doesn't mean it should be the same like that for the
Right,
end of your days?
right.
So, life is a series of mastering the next challenge,
Mhm,
and I think sometimes people feel like, "Well, nothing's wrong. Why do I feel this way?" I'm like,
mhm.
"'Cause you've mastered everything.
Right,
It's time for the next thing."
right, and what got you here won't get you there, right?
Right.
So tell us, so now that person, right? They're in that spot. They know that they need to connect with you. How can they get connected with you, and what is the first step?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty easy to reach. You can go to my website, adelewang.com, or you can reach out to me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or you just write me, Adele at adelewang.com. I try to be I don't like to make it complicated. And what
Mhm,
I typically do is we sit down, have a conversation because I want to see whether I can help you or not. I don't know. Because I know the problems I'm very good at. And then I know the things that I'm not as good at. And sometimes people need something else.
mhm,
Like I can just feel it when someone is right for what I do. They're ready,
mhm,
and they just need like the right door.
mhm.
And so I just, let's talk about. And then I tell them how I work, and if people, like, oh, I don't like you, that's perfect.
Yeah,
If they are interested, we talk about how that might look. Very, keep it easy.
yeah.
People make this way too hard.
Yes, indeed. Easy like Sunday morning. So
Yeah.
if that person is you, if you're inspired to take the next step, I did also include Adele's link in the
Oh,
description. So don't hesitate, get on a call and see if this is the right way for you. Hey, Adele, I
yeah.
love, 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 love this conversation. I
We
can't,
need
I
to
can't.
have more of these because I love coaches that are moving in this new direction. I am tired of mindset work. Oh
Mhm.
my God. Because a mindset is just, you have this thought, well, change it to that thought.
Right. Simple as that.
Stop. It's making people neurotic.
Right.
Most self help is cognitive.
Mhm.
You have this belief, just change it to this one. I'm like, how's that working for you? I mean, it's not that it's wrong,
Yeah.
but I find it very ineffective because you have to keep using your mind
Right.
to do it, and the rest of your body doesn't believe it for a minute.
Yeah. I don't have to. I get to.
Yeah, whatever.
It
I don't have
worked for a while, but no, I actually have to.
well, yeah, it takes
I have to
so
do
much
stuff.
energy. You have to
Yeah.
keep doing it, and
Right.
and in the beginning, it can feel like you're lying to yourself. I'm like,
Mhm.
don't do that. That feels crappy.
Right.
Just I feel like crap. Okay,
Mhm.
well, isn't that negative? I always say anything honest is positive.
Oof.
Anything on, even if you're having a crappy day, at least it's honest.
Uh,
Don't be one of these people that tries to say, fine, I know it was for my growth and everything happens for a reason. Like, oh my gosh, you're making your spirit just,
right.
at least just be where you're at.
Mhm.
It's such a relief.
Yeah, it's like trying to vacuum your rug with a water hose.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
do
People feel
something.
very guilty, feeling bad.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm like they're embarrassed about it. I don't want to bring people down. I know I'm complaining. I'm like, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
just be where you're at.
Right. And having an outlet for that, I think, is a very important thing because it's a scary thing to navigate even on your own. That's probably the best thing because not a lot of people have capacity for other people's feelings. They're struggling to manage their own.
Yeah.
So I can see how somebody would be resistant to opening up and sharing their truth, and hiding your truth long enough will just make it harder for you to even
Yeah.
acknowledge it yourself by yourself. So that's a perfect reason to align yourself with a coach and have that space where you can just freely express yourself, don't you think?
In a perfect world, everyone would have a coach, just like you have a dentist
Mhm,
or an accountant, just somebody in your world that's not like in your friend group or in
mhm.
your family group, because there's too many other relationships there.
Right.
And also, if you're out there, don't coach your spouse. Please
Oof,
don't.
big
You
mistake.
are not your therapist. You're not your spouse's therapist. You're not your child's therapist. Like, I know you want to help, but that causes so many
Big
problems.
mistake.
You need this outside person. See, because once upon a time when we lived in small groups, we always had elders. Like
Mhm,
these are people that just guided people. Like we didn't have therapists, coaches. They were just part of the fabric. But
Mhm.
we've lost that role now. So coaches are coming back into that role of an elder. It
Mhm.
used to be you could just go next door and ask your grandma for suggestions. We don't have that as much anymore.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny too, because I'm listening and I'm also thinking like some of my clients are like twice my age. So I
Yeah,
get to be the elder, but it's a role, right? It's a
it's a role
Mhm.
because our job is more about consciousness and transmitting and opening things up for people to experience their own
Right.
wisdom rather than teaching people.
Right.
So if you're good at sitting with people, your physical age is much less important than your
Right.
ability to hold space.
Right. And
Yeah,
I think and before I land the plane, I want to highlight that, right? Because a lot of people are like, they have this misconception of coaching as if it's I'm going to teach you how to do something, and that's more of a consultant. But a
yeah,
coach is nothing more than a professional listener. I think if you can listen 80% of the time and just give feedback, hey, this is what I'm hearing. Is that accurate? Who told you that? It's just
mhm,
inquisitiveness that gets you to dive deeper and pick apart your belief systems and maybe make space for a new, more productive,
yeah,
more helpful one.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know
Most people have never been around someone so interested in them. Like
hmm
I'm fascinated with people. I'm just like, oh,
right.
tell me more. Because they're around people that are so obsessed with their own problems.
Right.
But to have someone truly, like Talmadge is truly interested in you guys.
hmm
That's what that not trying to be interested. Like I've had therapists that sit there, uh-huh, mm-hmm. I'm like,
hmm
you're checked out. You're
yeah.
just, but if someone is truly interested, you can feel it.
hmm
And it's such a gift that someone would be so interested in all of you. Tell
hmm
me more. Like, oh, that's interesting.
right.
Would you like to explore that? I've never heard like that is what people want to be known.
Right.
And that's such a gift that you provide for them.
Yes, indeed, and you as well. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this exchange before I let you go, and I really don't want to, but I know you've got a life, you got people to
We'll
get
talk
to.
again.
Yes, indeed, we
We'll
must.
talk again.
My last question for you is: what is something somebody listening right now can do to live a little bit more by design instead of by default? Maybe a baby
Yeah.
step.
Yeah, a baby step. I tell all my clients, and they always gawk at me. Start paying more attention to your lower body.
Mm,
When people are lost and spinning, often the sexual energy is just it's disconnected.
mm,
And the easiest way to do that is just pretend that your entire lower body is like one big lung, and
mhm,
start breathing more from your lower body instead of your neck up here, and you'll start feeling the earth more. Your prayer work, your meditation, everything's going to be much easier. You won't have to think so hard about your problems. You'll just your mind will calm without you having to make it calm.
mhm,
So anything sensual, being outside in nature, smelling flowers, all that will turn you on again so that you can like breathe a bit.
right.
That yeah, that's my number one suggestion, and that takes practice.
Yes,
'Cause
indeed.
people aren't used to that.
Getting
Yeah.
grounded, returning to yourself is
Yeah.
always a really good move. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Adele, for spending this time with me. I'm so grateful. We will talk again for
We
sure,
will.
really
I'd
soon.
love to have you on my show if I can figure out how to make all this work. You've got the
Yeah.
tech figured out. Yeah. So no, it was a pleasure.
We'll do it. We'll do it. And to everybody listening at home, as always, love, be
Love
well, and don't forget to have the guts to follow your guts. Peace.